You know that feeling when you're so frustrated with a problem, maybe at work, maybe at school, and you just think, come on, there has to be a better way. Well, sometimes that little thought, that spark of frustration, is exactly what leads to some real innovation. Today, we're going to dive into the story of ASIS, a project where 3 high school students got tired of their school's broken communication system and decided to just rebuild it themselves from the ground up. Just think about it for a second. What was it like at your school? Was it a total mess of lost flyers, chaotic group chats, and emails that just vanished into the void? Yeah, that feeling is pretty universal. And it's the exact same feeling that kicked off our story at a technical school in Brazil called Fundação Liberato. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to dig into just how bad the communication problem at the school really was. Then, we'll meet the students who decided to fix it, and they've birthed to ASIS. We'll peek under the hood, see how they actually built the thing, find out what happened when they let real users get their hands on it, and finally, we'll look at the incredible legacy this project created. So every great innovation story has to start with a problem, right? And at this school, the problem wasn't just some small annoyance. It was a deep, systemic issue with the fundamental way people were trying to talk to each other. And this wasn't just a hunch or a few students complaining. The school's own survey from 2016 laid it all out in black and white. More than half, over 50%, of the teachers and staff found the internal communication unsatisfactory. That is a massive number. It's a huge red flag that the system in place was completely failing the people it was supposed to be helping. Now, you might be thinking, well, why didn't they just use WhatsApp or email? And they tried, but every single tool had a major drawback. Social media like WhatsApp and Facebook, well, that was a huge source of distraction, and a lot of times it was just plain blocked on the school's Wi-Fi. Email, way too clunky and slow for sending quick updates to big groups. And the old school physical bulletin boards, totally useless if you happened to be sick or out of the building that day. It was a mess, a fragmented, unreliable system where important info just got lost. So, in the middle of all this communication chaos, who steps up to the plate? You might think the administration, or maybe some outside tech company, but nope, it was a team of students. They saw the problem every single day, and they decided they weren't going to wait around for someone else to fix it. They were going to build the solution themselves. And here's the team, 3 students from the electronics course, Bruno, Enrique, and Nicholas. Under the guidance of their advisor, Professor Andrei Lawish, this wasn't just some after-school hobby. This was a serious research project they were building for Mostratec, which is a huge science and technology fair, so the stakes were pretty high. So, what was this big idea of theirs? They called it ASIS. And the concept was, honestly, brilliantly simple. They wanted to create one central hub for all school announcements. That's it. No more checking Facebook, then your email, then the dusty old bulletin board. Just one single, reliable source of truth that you could get to from your computer, your tablet, or your phone. And they were incredibly focused on their goals from day one. The plan was clear. 1, build a central system to kill the chaos. 2, make sure it worked on any web browser on any device. 3, have a long-term goal of building a native Android app. And maybe most importantly, they designed it to be for the entire school community, students, teachers, administration, everybody. Okay, so having a great idea is one thing, but actually building it, that is a whole different ballgame. So let's take a look at the tech and the process these students used to actually bring ASIS to life. Let's pop the hood and see what they were working with. For the front end, the part that you actually see and interact with, they used the standard building blocks of the web, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For the back end, the engine that makes it all run, they used PHP. And all the data, user accounts, messages, all of it, was stored in a MySQL database. To pull this all together as a team, they used a tool called Cloud9, which let them code collaboratively online. Pretty smart. And their process was just incredibly methodical. They didn't just start coding randomly. They started with the design, the layout. Then they built the database to actually mirror how the school was structured. After that, they built the login systems, then the core messaging feature, and finally, and this is so crucial, they went into a phase of testing and tweaking based on real user feedback. It was a truly professional workflow. All right, this is where the rubber meets the road. You can have the best idea in the world, you can build it with the best tech, but does it actually work for the people you designed it for? It's time to find out. So to find out, the team released a live version of the ASIS platform, and they gave access to a very specific group, their own classmates in class 4323, plus a handful of teachers. This wasn't some lab experiment. This was a real-world trial. And the results from that test? They were exactly what the team had been hoping for. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Users called the system very useful, and one of the teachers even said it would be a great facilitator for talking to an entire class. This was the validation they needed. Their core idea didn't just work in theory, it worked in practice. But what's really impressive here is that they didn't just sit back and collect the compliments. No, they listened to the constructive feedback, and they acted on it. Users wanted a cleaner interface? Bam, they added color coding for read and unread messages. The call for a mobile app was deafening, which just confirmed their future plans. And when people brought up security, they immediately implemented password encryption and added user profile features. This is the mark of a great team. They listen and they improve. So the system worked, and the users loved it. But the story doesn't just stop there. Not even close. The project went on to get some serious recognition, and it laid the foundation for an even bigger future. And all that hard work, it really started to pay off. The project earned formal recognition, getting selected to be presented at major science fairs like FICID and Mostratec. This really elevated it beyond just a class project and proved it was a high-level piece of technical work that could stand on a regional stage. What's really inspiring is that they had such a clear roadmap for what was next. They were already planning to build that Android app, add in moderation tools, and even new features like read receipts and replies. And their ultimate goal? To see ASIS fully implemented across the entire school, solving the exact problem that kicked this whole thing off in the first place. When you really step back and look at it, the ASIS project is so much more than just a communication tool. It's this powerful case study, a perfect example of what can happen when you empower students to solve the real-world problems that they themselves are facing every single day. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. The story of Bruno, Enrique, and Nicolas all started with a simple, everyday frustration. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What inefficiency, what little breakdown in communication do you see all the time? What problem in your own community is just sitting there, waiting for someone with a good idea to step up and build a solution?